Hello everyone, welcome everyone to the EBN Scholars, and today I'm here interviewing my wife, Marie. So
hello everyone.
Okay, so I have some few questions. I know some people have been asking me a lot of questions. Some they are mainly for her, so she's here. I'm going to ask you those kind of questions and we can hear from her. Okay, so yesterday was May 1st. What were we celebrating yesterday?
We were celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary when we married each other in the sacrament of marriage.
When was that?
May 1st, 2010 at the parish church on the University of San Diego campus where you were doing your master's at the parish of the Immaculata Catholic Church. Okay,
that's very good. Okay, one of the things people usually ask me is, what are you doing, or what did you do before, becoming my wife, basically?
People are asking that for real?
Yeah, they want to know.
They really are.
I usually tell people I'm one among the luckiest people on the planet Earth. So maybe you can say, what was your profession before I met you?
Well, okay, so after I was in college for about 2.5 years, I entered the convent. I'm Catholic, and from there, I was there for 6 years, and I decided that God was calling me to something deeper, and so I joined a cloistered monastery, which means no going out unless doctor's appointments. And that sounds pretty drastic to some people, but it was such a joy, such an absolute joy. So wait a minute, so that's what I was doing. And then I was really sick and I had to leave, unfortunately. And so I was home for about a year, and then we were matched on eHarmony.
Yes. So before we go there, because when you say cloistered, not everybody understands what do you mean.
That's why I said don't go out except for doctor's appointments.
Yeah, but people still don't understand, like, so in the religious way, just like there are sisters, and then there is nuns.
Okay,
but
right.
So just give that LGBT explanation.
So I can only speak to Catholic, the Catholic Church. I can't speak to Anglicans or any of the Lutherans or any of those things. So the Catholic Church has other vocations besides being married or having a single life or being consecrated or a priest. There's you can be a permanent deacon and either as married or not, and you can a young woman or a little bit older can enter the convent and be a religious sister, active sister, or they can be active contemplative, but they would be able to go out, teach, or be among people, and that's what I did for about 6 years. There were multiple things that I did.
And what did you do before those 6 years?
Before those 6 years at the convent?
Yes.
I was at school, in college.
Okay.
I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, which is a Catholic university in Ohio, Steubenville, Ohio, and that's actually how I ended up going to the convent, because I didn't grow up in a super religious home, and I don't think I ever saw a sister inhabit growing up, because that was that time, the 80s and early 90s, when that was not very much seen. So anyway, so there are sisters, and there are also brothers like that and priests that are in that type of community life, and they live with other people, and they usually wear a habit, like it looks like a dress, or but it's usually colorful, and for the most part it usually either come here or down to here, and then for the women there's a veil of some type, because they're married to Jesus, just like when women get married, they usually, not all the time, but they wear a veil. So the covering of the hair is because then in the Bible it even talks about how the hair is the crowning glory of a woman, and so we cover it to give glory to God. And so anyway, so the habit, it signifies who we are, and hopefully we can become what that signifies. Anyway, so teaching, hospital work, we're in our backyard, so there's dogs everywhere. And I worked at a Catholic school library. I also worked inside the convent, cleaning, dishwashing. We had a library inside there. All kinds of things that you just, so much has to cook. So many things have to be done. I helped out in a daycare center. I actually taught religion to grade school students for a year, and then I did a month or two at the Nunciatura in Washington, D.C. The sisters happened to be part of the community there for the ambassador from the Vatican, and so basically they cooked, cleaned, and those kind of little things kind of in the background, which is, that's just what it was. So I got to do that for a couple months one time, and then the last thing I did before I left was something really, really special to me, which was I worked with retired priests in a retired priest home, and that was really wonderful to see how human they are and be with them and learn. So there's a lot of different things. I mean, there are sisters that are doctors. There are sisters that are there's just so many different things. They can be a teacher, or some of them are contemplative active. They don't even really go out except to maybe do some catechism lessons. But after that, when I left and I joined this cloistered community, is that what you want me to head towards?
Yes.
Okay, a cloistered community, whether it's men or women, and it's usually women, but there are men's cloistered communities, but basically, they would still be wearing the full habit and everything else. I mean, there are communities that don't, and I'm not going to speak to that. Anyway, so the one I went to is what I didn't choose it because of this, but it's one of the most I don't know if sacrificial is the right word, penitential, but that's just the way it was. I mean, I've just found joy there, and God was calling me, and so anyway, cloistered. Basically, part of the rule of life is that we live inside the monastery gates, bounds, except for emergencies such as doctor's appointments, or if there's a natural disaster or things like that.
And you don't wear shoes.
That was this community. Yes, that was part of the penitential. Part of the life was to go barefoot. Now remember, we're not outside barefoot, we're inside barefoot. And part of that was just part of the penitential life. And just think of it this way: if the sisters can't be out doing things, they're praying for the world, but they're also doing sacrifices which go up to God as prayers. And so many times we would get people calling in or leaving notes saying, please pray for this. One we got often was, please pray for our child who is struggling in school, or even grade school or whatever, or please, I'm having surgery, or we're getting married, or I'm going to have a baby, or my mother is sick, or things like that. So we did a lot of the things that nobody ever knows about. So we did for God and His people, and so it was hard. I won't lie, but it was very joyful. So yes, I did go to doctor's appointments. We had friends of the community that would drive us, and dentist, eye doctor, but every community is different. Some, maybe their doctors come to them. But that's just how it is with that's how it was with us.
So for that case, I'm the luckiest guy to marry a former nun, right?
I don't
Just
know.
agree.
I don't know. I mean, that's your opinion. I was so, I come from Southern California, where being religious is almost non-existent. I mean, there are people, granted, yes, there are. I have lots of friends in California who are religious, but so it was sort of strange for me to introduce myself on eHarmony as a nun. And so I didn't say on my profile on eHarmony that I was a former nun, former sister, because I thought that might scare people away. I don't know, but I guess I don't know. Well, you used to be in high school seminary.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you consider yourself the luckiest guy in the world, that makes me feel so good. I mean, so.
And what inspire you to when we choose the names for the kids?
Well, that's
It's
another
just
question
randomly,
they want to know.
you just get it from the dictionary, encyclopedia, or whatever. How do you come up with the Faustina, Marie,
Claire Francisca, Benedict Fulbright. So, okay, so Ernest and I are very opinionated people, and we definitely have no problem telling each other what we think. And I'm sure you know that just from watching his videos and things like, and communicating with him. So, when I was pregnant with Benedict, we discussed what would we want to call our child, what names would we want to give our child, and I, you know, and we went back and forth, and this was the first time, and Ernest was still learning American culture and I was still learning Tanzanian culture, so I said, well, what about Peter or Paul or you know, things like that, you know, normal saints' names. And he said, oh no, those are all the missionary names that they gave us, you know. And I said, well, I don't know that. So I said, well, then we're just gonna have to pray about it, because we just couldn't come up with a name. And then one day I said, what about Benedict? Because at the time, the Pope for the Catholic Church was Pope Benedict the 15th. 15th? 16th? 16th. I'm the one with the degree in theology, and I was a sister. That's so embarrassing. Anyway, and so Ernest liked the idea. Originally, Ernest wanted to name our child Fulbright Croc Makulilo. Now, obviously, we can't change the Makulilo part, and I'm very proud to have the Makulilo part, so that's not a problem. The reason Ernest wanted Fulbright Croc is what?
I was a Fulbright scholar, so, and then I got another scholarship from John B. Kroc, so I want to combine everything to be part of the memory for the rest of my life.
Into our child. Into our child. So I said, what if we put Fulbright in the middle name? And so we came up with a compromise, and he liked the name Benedict anyway. We decided Pope Benedict is German, so we decided that it would be spelled B-E-N-E-D-I-K-T. That's the German spelling, but it's also the Swahili spelling.
Swahili's K is K and C is C.
Right, so that worked out as well. And Benedict also comes from the word blessing, and so he is our first blessing. And Saint Benedict, who is the founder of monasticism and community life and all of it, very, very old saint. So we were very blessed by that. So he goes, I mean, I don't know how many people probably ask him, why is your, I mean, because he's in grade school right now, so do they ask him about his middle name? Probably not, because he probably never has to mention it. But in later days, he'll say, yeah, my name is Fulbright.
My father was so smart.
all the Makulilos are smart. But, so yeah, so Ernest does get to leave his mark on our child. But, yeah.
And so, how did we come up with the name
Claire Francisca? How did we come up with the name Claire Francisca? Well, okay. Ernest, it really touches my heart, because Ernest really highly regards the fact that I was a sister, and he too is a faithful Catholic, which was kind of, for both of us, was if we met somebody who wasn't a faithful Catholic, it was a non-starter. We weren't going to continue on towards marriage. That was a really big thing. So there's a Saint Clare of Assisi and Saint Francis of Assisi, and it's in Italy. Saint Francis himself started a community of friars. They were mendicant. They did have sandals, but it kind of like barefoot mendicant, and they also asked for money or food. They would work for the food, or they would pray for people and things like that. So, and then St. Francis decided to start a female version. Now, at the time, there were no religious, this was back in medieval times, in 1200s, 1100, 1200s. There were no sisters that were out and about working with the people. They were all in monasteries, the cloistered. So he started a group of women who wanted to follow his way, and they called them the Poor Ladies of St. Francis, which became in the end the Poor Clares. And that is the community that I joined. There are many different offshoots and things, and I was a Poor Clare Collatine, which is, it's just a different version, but it's Poor Clares. And so St. Clare of Assisi was the first sister as a Poor Clares. And so we decided, Ernest and I were talking, and Ernest suggested Claire, and we needed a middle name, and I said, well, what about Francisca, because it's the female version of St. Francis, and
at that time Pope Francis was
right,
came into.
Yes, and also, and of course, so St. Francis means a lot to me too, because my community before joining the Poor Clares was the Sisters of St. Francis of the Martyr St. George, and they are Third Order Franciscans. And so not only was I Poor Clare, but I was also a Third Order Franciscan, so it really meant a lot to me.
And you went to Franciscan college.
And I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, so I had a lot of Franciscan thought and heart. And so, there was also a dear sister in the monastery with me, Sister Francisca, and she's passed away now, but I do think of her very often when I yell out, Claire Francisca, because she's in trouble or something, you know? So, but I think about all of those things. So yes, that's how we named Claire. And then we have this beautiful blessing, Faustina, and she's just a mess from lunch. So it was really hard to come up with names because we weren't agreeing this time. And so, but then Ernest right away said, well, what about Faustina? And I said, well, that would be lovely. I said, I would totally love that. I think that would be great. Sister Faustina was my name in the convent before I joined the Poor Clares. And so Saint Faustina was a very, very, very poor girl from Poland, and so poor that her family, her siblings, the girls shared a dress, so they could go to mass. So one girl went to mass in the dress one week, and the next week the other girl. I mean, that's how poor they were. And so, but then she joined a community, and she became very holy because of God's grace and her love for Jesus. And so that meant a lot to me, and that was my name. And so we gave her the name Faustina. And the middle name was harder because at first we said we just wanted something to honor Mary, the Mother of God, Jesus' mother.
And the Sister Faustina is the Sister Faustina Maria.
Well, she was Maria Faustina, yeah. Yes, right, yeah, anyway, that's whatever, yes. But then I said, but, you know, Ernest said to me, you said to me, what about Marie? And I said, that would be really odd to name our daughter Faustina Marie. It's not so bad anymore, but at the beginning, saying it out loud, it was really strange because I never dreamt of naming our child my name, because that's just not something that I'm used to as an American.
Welcome to my culture. Yes,
I know. In the United States, most women don't name their girls after them. The men might. That's a pretty normal thing, but for our culture. So, but then I was trying to come up with Marian names that that signified Mary, and came up with all kinds of them, and Ernest just didn't like them. So I acquiesced. I compromised. I said, okay, that's fine. And it's very nice. Faustina Marie is a very nice name. And so she's not only named after Saint Faustina, but also after Our Lady Mary, the Mother of Jesus, the Mother of God. And so we have all these holy saints in praying for us, hopefully. So. And
unfortunately, we had 2 miscarriages.
Yes, we had 2 miscarriages, unfortunately, but God works incredible things and He makes the best out of a very bad situation, if we let Him. And even though it was horrible, and it was very, very hard, and we missed them. I often don't think about it. We named each of our children that we miscarried because that way they were real to us. They weren't just a baby that died. It was, these are our children, and we do think of them. We still have, and we still have their ultrasounds, and so it means a lot to us. So the first one, we decided we would name Mary Joseph, and the reason we decided Mary Joseph is, well, one, because the Mary, the Mother of God, is very dear to our hearts, especially as Catholics. And then Saint Joseph, the husband of Mary, the foster father of Jesus, and patron of the Universal Church. He means a lot to Ernest and I. I was baptized in the Church of Saint Joseph the Worker, and Saint Joseph just is very dear to my heart because he's so normal. I mean, even though he did a lot of sacrificing, he was so normal. He lived with the Holy Family. He lived with God and the Mother of God, who were both sinless. And so Saint Joseph means, he just is a beautiful example for me. And you know, he has no words in the Bible. He was completely silent in the Bible. So he teaches a lot. Anyway, and then Ernest, why does Saint Joseph mean anything to you?
First of all, I went to Saint Joseph for my seminary. So on 19th on March, when you have the big celebration of Saint Joseph, and also May 1st is also Joseph the Worker. So it has been part of my life on that way.
So we decided on Mary Joseph, knowing that we would probably never name another child Mary or Joseph, and we didn't know that the gender of the baby. So we decided on that, and then. And so we asked Mary Joseph to pray for us very often, and we do tell the children about Mary Joseph. I wasn't very far along in either of them, so I'm thankful for that.
And the
second one we named Malaika. This is a Swahili name which means angel, and we were going to name a child Malaika, but then we decided to give our angel, not an angel in heaven, but angel in heaven. I mean, we know that the soul has gone to God. That's what we fully believe. So Malaika is our angel, and Malaika is, for either gender, is what Ernest has told me in Swahili, the name. So we do have those two. Are there other questions people are asking? Because it's we're getting kind of sad. And
yeah, people wanted to know most of those kind of things. But just maybe one last question. Even today I received a question. Someone asked me, how do you put... I was asking my schedule, like you are working full time, you have a family, you do blog, you do YouTube, you do all those kind of things. Can you share with me my schedule? You're writing books and everything. And even the letter I wrote yesterday on our anniversary, I had to say thank you because you allowed me to do my other things, like things which I've been doing before you got married, before we met, and you didn't make as an obstruction for me what to do. So how is it with you, like especially like sometimes I have to sleep late to make these videos? How did you come to reconcile to that kind of situation and allowing me to be?
I'll be honest, sometimes it's very frustrating, but I love you so much. I love you so much that it means a lot to me that you find joy and purpose in your life, in your work. And I know that these things, videos, books, writing, helping others, all of these things are really important to you, and so they're important to me. And so even though I may sometimes grumble underneath my breath or get frustrated and whatever, but I know that these are important for many, many reasons. Not only is it important for you and our family to see what you're doing, and it gives other people hope and help and assistance, and there's so many people out there that it's kind of like my husband, I say, is a celebrity. He goes the one time I was in Tanzania it was in June. The end of May, beginning of June of 2010. We were there for a month, and so many people came up and Makolilo, and I thought, my husband's a celebrity. He's famous, you know. I mean, all the Makolilos you just don't realize it. But when we went to Kigoma, his home city, everybody knew the Makolilos, and it was very interesting because I had never experienced something like that before because I came from a very small family and came from a very large city of 125,000 people in Southern California. So it wasn't as if everybody knew me or my family. Sometimes my sister, who's 10 years younger than I, gets mistaken for me or vice versa. And so it's important to you. It's important to other people. You have created something and filled a vast need. You're filling a vast need that others are not. And I also take that as a calling from God for you, and I think you do too. And because I remember asking you when we were engaged, getting married, I said, how come you don't charge for your services? We need money for our wedding. And you said, but God doesn't charge, you know? And so that's one big part of it. And I also, it helps me to grow and to learn and stretch, because I've got to see that I don't absolutely need you at that moment, or I don't absolutely need something. And that's part of, you know, I've heard many people, priests and other people, talk about marital life, wedding, being married, and how we are one, but we are hopefully bringing each other to sanctity, to holiness, to go to heaven. That's our goal. And it's not easy at all. And that's even my Facebook post yesterday. I said we're definitely not perfect. And I even gave the example of homeschooling. I just can't do it. There's just no way. I mean, right now with all of this going on, I'm having a hard time. And it's not a lot for us right now. I mean, Benedict does online learning, but so anyway. Wait, just real quick. I was going to use the example of mountains, how they rub up against each other, and they smooth each other out, and that's kind of how we're supposed to be. And so sometimes it's like an earthquake, you know, like it's not a smooth movement, and so sometimes it's going to be hard, and that's okay.
Do you have any question for me before I conclude the?
Now you did that to me on purpose, because I was thinking of something before and I was going to ask you, and now I can't think of it. What about when, you should probably turn the camera to yourself, but how we lived with my parents for a while on and off. There were just some reasons for that, and I think it would be helpful for other people to know about that, because they would know what it's like for you, and I think they might understand a little bit better. You want to sit here?
No, just sit there. I'm just here. Okay, so I'm here. Okay, so the quicker thing is, life is not like how you plan. And for me, it didn't go like exactly what I was planning. Got married. Then life didn't go as well, didn't get a good job, then you end up living with your in-laws. And coming from Africa, Faustina, coming from Africa, that is completely out of picture. You cannot be able to do that at all. It's just like the most embarrassing thing ever a man can do is to live with their in-laws, especially when the woman's side. But I mean, it's either you go to be homeless or you stay with your in-law. So that, for me, at the beginning was very, very hard, but for me up to now, because even if you ask how did you manage to stay longer and all other things, among the benefits of staying with my in-laws is understanding my wife's background, where she came from, the parents, the family, everybody, like how they operate and everything. That gave me the perspective. So there are certain things when they happen, I know, okay, how to go about it, how to resolve certain situations, how to see
Why
the
is
best.
my wife acting this way?
I know where it came from. Whether if she has to cry, I know where it comes from. Whether she's upset, I know where it comes from. So that helps me a lot, basically. So I'm thankful for that. That experience, it helped me a lot. And even now, like, the relationship with my in-laws is very, very good. Partly because I stayed with them, compared to if I could not live with them, we could have a relationship, but could not be the same.
I think it would be vastly different, because they wouldn't have gotten to know you like they did, and it is a real blessing. And God bless my parents. They, oh my goodness, they are so good to us, so very, very good to us.
Yeah. So one last thing, usual, I can just, because you mentioned that you met on eHarmony.
Yes.
eHarmony is one of the dating websites.